Hi folks, Charlotte Loppie here, and I'm just doing this very short video for all of you who are going to be acting as reviewers for the BC NEIHR graduate scholarships and postdoc fellowships. First, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking your time. I know folks are super busy, and we really appreciate your work and your time on ensuring that we're able to provide a fair and equitable and fairly timely review for our graduate student and postdoc applications. And so you've received our reviewer's guide. And so this is just a quick video just to give you the highlights of that guide, but we would really appreciate it if you would read that over carefully. It's about 5 pages, just over 5 pages long, but it's pretty straightforward. And if you do have any questions at all, please do contact me or Tara, who is our network coordinator. And so, yeah, the review process, some of you may be quite experienced in this area, and others, this may be your first time. And so we want to be as supportive as we can for you in terms of the process, and we would really appreciate any feedback that you have about that. And so you'll notice on the first page, there's just a very quick overview, a summary of the review process. There's basically four steps. One is first to identify any conflicts that we have with applicants. Then the next step is really to conduct those reviews and assign scores to those applications, submit them, and then potentially, because we do take an iterative review, potentially re-review some of those applications. And so if you're not familiar with an iterative review process, it's slightly different than the standard review process whereby applicants submit their proposal or their application for funding, and then there is a final decision is made about that application. It is either funded or not funded. An iterative review process is one where if a file or an application might be missing information, there's an opportunity for the applicant to submit that missing information and not be penalized like we typically see in the like regular reviews. And the second one is that oftentimes there's just a few things that pull the score on an application down a little. And so because BC NEIHR is really about mentorship, right? In addition to supporting students, we want to make sure that students are learning from the process of doing this. And so we want to offer them an opportunity to make revisions, not grand revisions, but if there are minor revisions that really would increase the score on an application, we want to provide feedback to them immediately upon review of their application and give them an opportunity to make those revisions and to resubmit it and have it reviewed right away with the potential of it being funded. So that's the iterative review process. If you have any questions at all about what that, a bit more detailed discussion, I'm very happy to talk with you about that. Yeah, and so, in terms of the conflict of interest, it's super important to be careful that we don't have a conflict with, in this case, with students. So, that we are not benefiting in any way from a student's application, so that we're not in, don't have a close personal or professional or academic a relationship with them or with their supervisor. Now, that doesn't mean that we maybe have worked with them, but we want to make sure that there's no real or perceived conflict between us and an applicant. Could be that you have some relationship even with one of the folks that are that they're working closely with. So super important if you could look through the different the descriptions of what constitutes a conflict, and you'll receive like a spreadsheet of all of the applicants, so much so that you'll be able to tell who they are, who their supervisor is, what their institution is, and make sure that you don't have any conflict with those applicants. You can let Tara know if you do, and then we're going to make sure that you're not assigned people that you have a conflict with. Once those conflicts have been determined and the assignments have been made, you will receive those via the Dropbox or by email, and likely by the Dropbox. And then you can make sure again that you're really familiar with the criteria, right? We want to make sure that all students and postdocs are evaluated in the same way based on the same criteria, right? We wouldn't want to have them being judged differently, and we want to make sure that those criteria are super clear to you as well, and that you find them easy to use. So again, if you have any feedback for us about them, please do let us know. We are always looking to improve our processes and our materials, right? And so again, we ask that you read all of the applications that you've been assigned first, and then you can go back to the first one and start to move through the applications based on the criteria. Sometimes it's good to get sort of an overall picture of all of the applications before we start to go into the specifics of the criteria, matching the criteria to a score and our assessment of that. There is a section in there about unconscious bias, and so things like, you know, having children, raising them, obviously having to take time off for that, just thinking about the different disciplines and the expectations of those different disciplines, reputations of the institution or their supervisors. So making sure that we're not negatively biased against folks, you know, related to things like gender or sexuality or even the discipline that they're coming from, right? And so keeping those things in mind as we look through the applications, and then really using that rating scale, the 0 to 4.9 scale that's generally used by most of the tri-council policy or tri-councils in terms of like the assessing the quality of applications, making sure that we use the full scale. But most importantly, when you're assigning a score to the criteria, make sure that you're explaining why you've provided that score for that particular criteria, using the criteria that we've given you to substantiate or justify that score, making sure that those comments are respectful and constructive, because we're talking about trainees and students. We want to be, we really are looking to mentor them through this experience and help them to create something that's going to be more useful to communities, and then also a good learning experience for them. And that they can see why they received the score that they have, right? If you do have any concerns, ethical or otherwise, about applications, please do let us know, and we will address them. And then it's just submitting those reviews and the ratings on time, please, right? We want to make sure that our students get their funding as quickly as we can, and so it's really important, and it's critical actually, that the reviews are done and that they're done within the timeline that we've promised students to get back to them about their assessments, right? And again, because we are taking an iterative approach to these reviews, there is a potential that we might, that a student might wish to revise something and resubmit it. So we would ask you to look at it again to see if the student had actually addressed your concerns in a way that you felt would warrant a higher score. And then because there are 2 reviewers for each application, generally we expect that the scores are going to be fairly similar, and which means that, you know, if the discrepancy between the 2 scores is fairly small, we can generally just take the mean. We might ask you to read the reviews by the other reviewer and see if you're willing to come up or down on your score. If not, then we can take the mean of the scores. And if the discrepancy is really large, we may ask the group, the whole panel of reviewers, to come to come and discuss and to hear the reviews and discuss them. And so, yeah, once that's done, we will rank those applications based on how much money we have to spend. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't fund every student, even though they may be ranked within the fundable range. Most of you who are researchers will understand that, and so, you know, we're hoping that we can fund as many students as possible. And then again, just hoping that you will give us any and all feedback about the application review process, any of the materials we've given you, the kind of instruction, whether it's the guide or this video that we've provided. You have any ideas about how we can improve this process, please let us know. We are always open to feedback and future learning. So thank you again. I hope you and your families are well, and hopefully we'll see each other soon in the real world. Thanks.